I used to come back to New York to do a movie and, and stay in a hotel and shoot. And I did a whole bunch there. And one of them was The Wanderers, which either came right before or right after Raging Bull. I think it was right before Raging Bull. And it's a story about teenage gangs in the Bronx, or teenage kids in high school who belong to a gang called the Wanderers. It's a Dion and the Belmont song, I'm a Wanderer, I'm the kind of guy that'll never settle down. Yeah. And they have wonderful jackets that say Wanderers on the back of them. And there are Italian gangs and black gangs, and there's an Irish gang. And there's a gang called the Fortambaldis, who really was a gang, and who all have shaved heads. And they were written by the novelist Richard Price, and they are originally a book of connected short stories that's sort of a novel. And I can't remember what the name of the book was, or the book was called The Wanderers. But they are, maybe the book was called The Wanderers, I just don't remember. But they are clearly based on his own adolescence in the Bronx, where he grew up, where he was the kind of the nerdy Jewish kid in the high school, and he desperately wanted to be in with the hip Italian, really, cool guys. And the stories are wonderful, by the way. The story's really marvelous. And Phil and his wife adapted it as a screenplay, and we shot it.
The voice you just heard was that of Michael Chapman, cinematographer and director of photography for the film The Wonders. So, what do you get if you cross Jews, Italians, blacks, the Irish and a gang of badass baldies in the Bronx? You get the film The Wonders, a witty, for its time satire that lampoons the stereotypes and cliches of the gang culture in the 1960s. The film is loosely based on the novel by Richard Price, who also co-wrote the screenplay along with Philip Kaufman, the director. The film follows the misadventures of the Wanderers, an Italian-American gang led by Richie, as they encounter various challenges and enemies, such as the giant bald man, a kung fu master, a Nazi biker, and a horde of Irish zombies. The film is full of humour, action, romance and music, good music, with a catchy soundtrack that features songs from the era. Lots of good songs from the era. The film is also a clever commentary on the issues of racism, violence and identity that affected the urban youth of that time. The film is widely regarded as one of the funniest and most original films of the 1970s, cult classic amongst all the fans of the genre, and is also the subject of today's podcast. Hello and welcome to the Adapted to Screen podcast, a podcast where we take a screenplay, a book, some sort of text that's been converted to a film or TV series, and we just talk about it because we don't really have any other real talents in life apart from watching TV and reading books, so we just come together and talk about what we've done. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about the film and the book The Wonders, and joining me to talk about the film and the book The Wonders, I have on mute Phil McCulloch, and he's pointing at the screen, he's pointing at me like I'm some sort of cunt. It's not.
Right, okay, I'm not on mute anymore. Hello, Richie the Body, how'd you do?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Now, I put my microphone on mute, and it must automatically turn the mute onto the screen, so I do apologise for that. Sorry, mate.
I put you on mute, but for some reason I can't take you off. I don't know why that is.
You did that last time.
Yeah. So there you go. I'll trust you all well.
I am very well. Thank you very much for asking. Yourself?
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I can't complain. And also today we have a guest. We don't always have a guest. Sometimes we have a guest. We have a guest to do with the film or the book sometimes. Today, none of the above. Do you want to introduce our guest, Phil?
Yes, today we have a fantastic stand-up comedian in the UK and a very dear friend of mine. It's Stephen Dodd. Hello, Stephen. How do you do?
Hi, Phil. Hi, Richie. You all right, yeah?
All good. Thank you very much. If I'm distracted tonight at any point, there's two reasons for it. One is I didn't finish the book.
Oh.
I've only read part of the book. And I'm upstairs in front of the window, and all I can see for miles and miles is fireworks.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yes, indeed. I have my curtains closed. So we have Stephen to thank for the choice today of The Wanderers. Stephen, tell us why you chose to discuss The Wanderers.
Because he's a big racist.
You've outed me. No, for me, it was a film that isn't an obvious choice for people. When you think about films that have been taken from book to screen, it's not an obvious choice. And a lot of people who have seen the film didn't know there was a book originally for The Wanderers.
that's kind of like a lot of things, Stephen. I think that's why Richie and I decided to do this podcast, because there's a lot of films out there that you just don't know that they're based on books. I mean, some are pretty obvious, but some just aren't.
Yeah, I think our biggest one was Miss Doubtfire, wasn't it? That was the one that I don't think anybody in the world. No. I think even the author must have forgot at some point.
Well, I've only just found that out this second. That is a shock to me. Also, with The Wanderers as well, I'm of the age group where the video revolution came in at the early 80s, and we used to get film after film every weekend. Probably watch about 8 films of a weekend, and The Wanderers was one of the ones that stuck out, and it was just, it screams to me, that film. It was just one of the films that we'd watch at least once a year, and everyone would say like various quotes from it, like don't fuck with the Wongs or don't fuck with the Baldies, do you know what I mean? It was just sort of like, it was a film that everyone was sort of mad about when we was like 10 or 11 years of age, really. And it is a cult classic. It really is a cult classic. Very much a product of its time, which after rereading the book in the last couple of weeks, I was like, wow, this is like unbelievable. This is, oh my God, sort of thing. And I know we did have those sort of discussions with messages coming back and forth, but I just think it paints a perfect picture of that time as well, the early 60s.
Our conversations that we were having were based around this book and the story and everything being very racist, and him being obviously not of today. But looking back, because although I didn't finish the book, I've looked a lot into the story and the author. It's not as bad as it seems on the surface. It's touching on that generation, that era where he grew up, what he went through.
Yeah.
It's almost a documentary of what happened.
Yes.
That time. It'd be easy for younger people to watch it now and think, oh, this is awful, we shouldn't watch this, we need to take it off, it needs to be cancelled. But no, I think you need to look at it in the light of, this is showing you how things were back then.
And I agree with that, because you can't airbrush history. You can't airbrush it out of people's minds or what actually happened. And I just think that more so the book paints a perfect picture of what was going on at that time in America, especially in New York, where at the turn of the 19th century or the 20th century, people from all over the world ended up going there, living there. And I just think it just shows what a melting pot it was, and it wasn't a bed of roses for quite a lot of people.
Indeed. It's quite funny. I'd never heard of the film, actually, until you'd mentioned it, and I was actually quite happy that it was a subject matter that it was. And it did make me think of things like The Outsiders, The Warriors, which I think The Warriors probably came out a little bit after this, even though the book was 10 years previous. And obviously The Outsiders came out in the early 80s as well. Because obviously The Outsiders, for those who don't know, it's absolutely packed with stars. I mean, there weren't stars at the time, but it had people like Tom Cruise, Ralph Macchio, Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Matt Dillon, Leif Cassidy. I think it was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Heather Langenkamp was in it. And then there was another one, I think, in the late 80s, which name escapes me now, but it was a similar thing about kids who basically lived on the street in Los Angeles, I think, and that had people like Will Smith, James LeGros, and a few others in it. So those kind of films, I've always liked those kind of films, and I was pleased that you chose that one rather than The Notebook.
I do like The Notebook, as it goes. I'm a big fan of The Notebook, but life isn't all romance and moonlight, is it? And I do believe, like I've said about 3 or 4 times, that just paints a perfect picture of history, the book and the film itself, more so the book than anything else, really.
Right, shall we move on to Author's Bump, Richie?
Yeah.
Author's Bump!
Richard Price, born October the 12th, 1949, is an American novelist and screenwriter known for the books The Wanderers, Clockers and Lush Life. Price's novels explore late 20th century urban America in a gritty, realistic manner that has brought him considerable literary acclaim. Several of his novels are set in the fictional northern New Jersey city called Dempsey. Now, to have a quick look at some of his books that he's written, Wanderers being his first, Blood Brothers, Ladies' Man, The Breaks, Clockers and Freedom Land, which you may know, Richie, as a 2006 movie starring Samuel L. Jackson and Julianne Moore. He has also written screenplays such as Ransom, starring Mel Gibson, Kiss of Death, starring Nicolas Cage, Mad Dogs and Glory, featuring Bill Murray and Uma Thurman, Night in the City with Robert De Niro, and, of course, other films like Streets of Gold with Joe Roth and Wesley Snipes.
So what impresses me there is all that work that he's done is that The Wanderers is a mirror of his life, basically, his life and his perception of the time. So although it's, fictional, a lot of it is based on truth as well.
I wonder if he were to write that book today, having not written it when he did, would he have written it different?
Well, he probably would have had more drug, because I think the thing that I found funny about this, reading the book, what I found funny, it was just groups of kids. That's all it was. They weren't.
It didn't come across that way in the film, though.
No, but that's the whole thing. Like when you're reading the book, it's basically there's a group of kids who are a gang, and there's a gang over there, and then there's a gang that might be a little bit older over there. But all they're doing is playing football matches against each other. They're not they're not like beating each other up and stabbing each other and rolling shots and this, that, the other. It was kind of just what you did. Like, I don't know, maybe, for instance, when you were 14 and you hung around with kids in your area and you go, oh, we don't want to mess with the kids over that side, that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of what it was, but it was a little bit different in this because, like Steve said, and like you mentioned in your introduction, there was the black part, there was the Jewish part, the Italian part, the Irish part, and you kind of had that. I suppose these children, because that's really what they were, they kind of had the stereotypical opinions of their parents on them, i.e.
Yes, very much so, yeah.
Whether they were, because the teacher did that a little bit in the movie. The teacher was like, well, what do your parents call the blacks and what do your parents call the Italians and what do your parents call the Jews? And, it was kind of building up to you're getting your opinions from your parents, but actually if you just got on with each other, just get on with your life, everything's going to be okay, kind of thing. That's what I thought anyway.
Yeah, I think it did highlight the ignorance of people not mixing, really. A lot of it is down to ignorance. And the scene you talk about there with the teacher writing on the blackboard, what interested me in the book was the teacher involved in the book was an ex-gang member.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Who was all the time just thinking, I could flatten all of these if I wanted to. And there was like bits of him raging inside when he was doing that, and when they was fighting in class, and he sort of broke the fight up. But in the film,
he started the whole thing, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
it was his fault that everything went tits up
in the movie. Yeah, but let's get on to the differences shortly. Shall we do the IMDb bits, Richie?
What, you mean the cast?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, go on then.
Okay. So here we are, The Wanderers. We have Ken Wall, who played Richie. We had Karen Allen, who most of you will know from Indiana Jones. She played Nina. John Frederick played Joey. Tony Kalem played Depsy. Alan Rosenberg played Turkey. Jimmy Youngs played Buddy. And we have Tony Ganios played Perry, and Linda Mans, who played Pee-wee. Also a special mention to Erling van Lith, who played Terra. Now, can either of you two tell me what Terra or Erling van Lith's last film role was?
Was it Stir Crazy?
No, it wasn't Stir Crazy. It wasn't Stir Crazy. It wasn't Stir Crazy.
He sounds like he should be a Bond villain.
No, he should have, but he died. He died in 1987. He died really, really early. He was only about 34.
James Bond's been going since 1820.
Yeah, I swear to God, Richie. He played Dynamo in The Running Man.
Oh, yes. Thinking about it now, you can visualise him. Yeah.
You can indeed, yeah. Right, and so, and of course, sorry, it was directed. It was directed by Philip Kaufman. Richard Kaufman. Philip Kaufman, who directed The Wanderers in 1979. The year before had directed Invasion of the Body Snatchers. A year or 2 years after that had co-written Raiders of the Lost Ark. So he'd written and directed lots of different stuff, including Rising Sun with Wesley Snipes and Sean Connery.
Another great film.
Yeah. And the one thing that got me, because I watched this on Freevee on Amazon, and at the very start it looked like you know when you're watching the local news and they go, oh, such and such place in the 70s, and they show you like clips of the 70s. That's what it looked like. It looked like some proper news footage from the 70s to start with. I was like, oh god, this is going to be terrible, but actually it wasn't. It worked out all right. Are we doing our cinema bit, Richie?
If you want to do your cinema bit, you can do. I haven't done a trailer this week.
You haven't done a trailer? Okay, right then.
No.
You're not using that Inspector Gadget music over the top of it again, are you?
Oh, that was funny.
It was funny when I listened back to that.
I do apologise, but I had to put it.
So
as soon as I
funny.
heard you talking, I thought I'm going to have to stick that underneath. Okay, carry on then, Phil.
Right, okay.
The Wanderers is a teenage Italian gang in the Bronx, New York City, 1963. They have their confrontations with other gangs. Drugs and weapons are uncool. Adult life awaits them.
I don't know what music I'll put underneath that in the edit, but
Sounded like a ransom demand.
I'm quite happy with that Inspector Gadget music.
what was it, Dr. Claw? It sounds like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
He did. The thing is, he did it for Breakfast at Tiffany's as well, and he just made the whole film, which is meant to be a romantic comedy, just sound like a sinister horror.
He's a great voice, but he's just.
Thank you, Steve.
If you want your kids back, send £10,000.
You sound like Bet Down the Boozer who's had too many fags.
Head down the booze with throat cancer. Right.
Right, so okay, let's go into the differences. So actually, I mean, even though there wasn't very much difference, there's quite a lot of differences, I thought. From what I remember reading the book, Joey and Richie were the main characters. They were the two main guys.
Yeah.
And everyone else, you know, you had Eugene, you had Turkey, you had Buddy, you had Perry. There was little smatters here and there of different people. But I'm not sure whether what they've done is taking Joey and giving him half of Richie's part in the movie, if you know what I mean. It seems that like it was Joey and Perry. That's what it seemed to me. And Richie was kind of like the third wheel of those two, where it was very much Richie and Joey all the way through the book. I don't know if I'm wrong in thinking.
No, you're right in what you say there. And another character I didn't see was, I believe, was it Joey or Richie's little brother?
Actually, well, two. First of all, Richie's little brother in his gang of the Zorros.
Yeah.
And Richie's girlfriend's brother, Scott Height.
Yes.
Who, and I just wanted to, if I can quickly find it in the book, I just want to read this because fucking hell, I have never read something that was fucking so shocking in any book.
Is this the roof scene?
The roof.
yeah.
I haven't got to the roof scene.
Oh my God, it did. It just sort of shocked me when I read it.
But why are you trying to find that? When I said earlier, would it have been written the same? I'm also talking about the language and how he actually wrote the book. Do you think he'd have been brave enough to use the same language?
We had this conversation when it come to Nothing Lasts Forever, Richie. There was a lot of N-words and so on and so forth in that book, and that was like a mid-70s book, wasn't it? And the same in Breakfast at Tiffany's. There was a lot of N-words. There was lots of like aspersions on gay people and stuff in that book. And I think it's just the way that book was written was exactly the language that was, number one, used, and number two, acceptable at the time.
I agree, but the only reason I ask it about this book, whether it be written the same, is because this isn't fiction. This is kind of like his life in a book.
Yeah.
So to keep accurate to his life and what he went through, you would want to keep that language really, so as you can get a fuller picture of how it was for him. If you start changing the language and start pretending it didn't happen, I'm not getting the picture that he's not painting the picture that he wants to paint. That language is necessary for the story that he's trying to put across.
Are you talking about if it was rewritten? Sorry.
If he'd wrote it nowadays, if he was to say,
I think the language would be different because we speak differently. If you know what I mean, like we would use different, or we do use different terminologies. Don't
but we do, but he doesn't. What if he didn't write it then, but he wrote it now?
That's a very good question, Richie. I think
because at the back of his mind, he's going to have it in his head that probably going to upset a few people by doing it this way. But in this, although I don't agree with the terminologies or some of the words that are used, I think it was necessary for you to get a proper picture and understanding of how it was. And if you take that away, it's almost like he'd be glossing over the truth.
It probably might be softened slightly. They might say, for instance, can you not say the N-word 87 times?
I think the film diluted it a bit as well. I think the film diluted the racism in it, and
but there's a different. But the reason for that, Steve, I think, is there's a lot of differences in between the book and the film. The one thing that the film did excellently was took the chapters of the book and put them in a different order.
Yes,
make complete sense.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever watched a film of a book and gone, "Fuck me, this makes more sense."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the end's in the middle, the beginnings at the end, so on and so forth. And you're like, "Oh, this makes complete sense."
And the final chapter is just taken out completely in the film, so it's not even in the film.
Because it's unnecessary.
I thought it was unnecessary in the book. To be fair, I really did. It just sort of like. It upset me a little bit when I read it this morning. When I finished it off, it upset me, the last chapter. I just thought, did we really need that in the book?
I'm going to have to read the book now.
No, well, it's I'll tell you what the title of the chapter is, Richie. And like I know what Steve's talking about, but I refuse to read it. It's chapter 12, Coda, the Rape. So that's it, not reading it.
Oh wow.
Absolutely not going to fucking bother because I don't deal with shit like that. So
I don't know where that chapter came from, whether it's on a true story or what, but I just didn't see any rhyme or reason to it. It was just weird.
I mean, I think it must have been something that maybe happened to someone he knew. I mean, I can only imagine that would be the reason why he'd do it. Like you say, most of the stuff is kind of from his experience, but he's kind of fictionalised it.
But it was like an add-on. It was like you write a story and you think, I didn't put that bit in. Let's put it in at the end. But that would be, for me, that as a story itself, the seriousness of it would have been in the middle because of the seriousness of what happened in that chapter. It just sort of like seemed to me like I can't fault the book apart from that. It just seems like I forgot to put that in. Let's put that story right at the end.
The film and the book. The book reads more like, as you say, it's about kids growing up, and but the film is more, it's dark and it feels more like an adult film. I think it would have been better done in the 80s with people like Corey Feldman and that group of kids that did the Goonies and everything, and it would, it wouldn't have been so.
I think it was the Greece school of casting where they're casting 30 and 40-year-olds in roles that people are 17 and 18, stuff like that. Yeah,
they did. I mean, Perry and Richie looked like 40-year-old blokes, didn't they?
Yeah.
There he goes.
Have you ever seen a 17-year-old white boy the size and with muscle like him? Absolutely fucking not.
Never.
But Richie, what you were saying there is what me and Steve were talking about earlier on. They did The Outsiders in the early 80s, Ponyboy, and it was the Greasers versus the local gangs. They did Red Dawn, which I know was about an invasion of North Korea, but it had Charlie Sheen in it, it had Jennifer Grey, it had all the Brat Pack kind of people. So they've done these gang things all the way across, but I think this is one of the better ones, I think. But here's the page from The Wanderers, chapter 4, The Roof. So to set the scene, Scotty Height, who is Richie's girlfriend's brother, who, by the way, isn't in the movie at all, and we'll talk about that in the differences. Him and his mate go up to the top of this building to read a porno, right? And Scotty
read a porno.
Yeah, to wank off to a porno, whatever they were gonna do. They got a.
That's what we had to do in the old days. It weren't just 2 clicks and you got donkey porn. It was like you had to work to get your porn back in our day.
Yeah, but when I found it, I didn't fucking read it.
So Scotty goes, let's go downstairs. And the doors, Scotty tells, I don't know, what's the lad's name here? Dougie. Scotty tells Dougie that the door's locked. What we're going to do? Scotty echoed weakly. Dougie sniffled, starting to cry. Man! Scotty ran over to the iron grill and bleated in his dull oxen terror to the empty streets far below. Scotty! Dougie ran over to him, eyes glistening. I've got it! Scotty's face was coated in tears, his breathing laboured, his lips shivering. Scotty, listen, we can jump. Dougie's lips were shivering too. What? Scotty gasped in horror. We can jump, look. He pointed to Scotty's sneakers. We've got PF flyers, we'll bounce up like kangaroos, like on the Terratoon Circus. Scotty, sensing salvation, nodded excitedly. Yeah, we'll be safe, Dougie shouted. Safe, Scotty screamed. Dougie climbed the iron grill and crouched on the top rail. Come on, Scotty. Scotty hoisted himself up to Dougie. Both boys grasped the top bar, crouched. They looked like swimmers waiting for the starting gun. Scotty's eyes were tight shut. Dougie looked at him. Okay, when I say 3, we jump, okay. Scotty started sniffling again but wouldn't open his eyes. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Dougie jumped backwards onto the gravel, but Scotty pitched himself clumsily off the roof. About 4 stories down, he started to scream, hearing a whap like a splattering coconut. Dougie ran to the rail, looking down as he saw Scotty sprawled on the pavement like a bloody howdy-doody with a cut string. Dougie pressed his face between the cool bars of the grill and stared off into the park. After a while, he trotted back to the iron door, opened it and disappeared down the stairs. And you think, Dougie, you little shit.
But it's like they never mentioned it again. It's like the kid's some sort of killer, and he's just like, I'm going home now, sort of thing.
Yeah. I never saw him again in the book, and I was like, no, have I missed a chapter? Have I missed something here? And it was the only bit that kind of referred to them two, Dougie and Scotty, was when because you can tell Dougie's a little prick because he does that. Do you want to do that softest punch competition?
I remember that. Yeah.
So Scotty just gives him a little love tap, and then Dougie proper bombs him, and he goes, "That really hurt." He goes, "I lost then, didn't I?" They did that in the car. It was it Richie and Joey? Richie and Joey in the back of the car. Yeah. So that's one difference. They took some characters out of the film completely.
But again, that was another massive story that was just sort of left in the book. It happened, and then they're like, just carry on.
The reason why, because it was Scotty who was C's. Was it Dougie who was C's brother, Richie's girlfriend's brother, or was Scotty? Because I forget which one now, but whichever one it was, probably the fucking evil bastard.
Yeah,
he'd wrote Richie hates. Or on a wall, and that's why the Dow bombers were upset with him. And that's why there was going to be a big fight, not because they decided at school they were just going to have a fight, because that's what it was, wasn't it? It was that was in the class. He goes, "Oh, let's meet up Saturday in the park for a fight," and he's like, "Yeah," but that wasn't it. It was because that kid had written Richie H on the wall.
Which, when you think about it, you wouldn't sign your own name, would you?
No,
absolutely not. No.
I mean, if somebody said something that bad about me, and it had a person's name next to it, so I'd think, well, clearly it wasn't that person then.
Yeah. And obviously I'd actually made a few notes. I'll just get my notes out.
Look at you.
You know, I had to. Well, we have to, Rich. We have to make notes. I put 30 minutes in, nothing to do with the book. He's like, is anything going to be like in the book yet? Because it was like they'd gone from being chased by the Boldies to Perry turning up and battering everyone to the school to that. I mean, that scene in the book was obviously there, but I was like, we're about 27 minutes in here, and there's no cohesive thing.
Cohesion
with the book. But actually, it wasn't until about maybe half an hour later I was like, he's just taken all bits of chapters and he's put them in the right order. And that makes perfect sense.
I think that you're looking at the book in the wrong light. The book was never written as a linear story. The book was put together as almost short stories.
Now, I heard that in the promo thing at the beginning, yeah.
It was never going to follow. I think it was one of the reasons why I stopped reading the book. It started to make no sense to me. I got bored of it. It's like I already know most of this anyway from the film, and I just got fed up. But since I've looked at interviews and read it and stuff since then, and what I've heard, I'm more interested in going back to the book now and looking at it in that light rather than expecting one full linear story, which is what the film had to do, obviously. It wasn't going to be like Tales from the Crypt. Now to make it a linear film.
I think it did it very easily, though. There was things like doing the elbow tits, which made me laugh.
Oh, God, that was fucking brilliant. I used to do that as a kid. Elbow tit.
But then it was like, for instance, with the in the book, they have the football match, like, you know, halfway through the book, you know, like 5 or 6 chapters in, and that's where the Ducky Boys first attack. And the Ducky Boys, which were weird ones, they had them when they were following the girl in the car, and Perry was driving, and they end up in this like fucking smoke-ridden back street. All of
it suddenly turns into nighttime, doesn't it?
Yes,
and it's like,
minutes, it's pitch black, and I don't know where they are. It's like if I drove for 3 minutes from my house, I would know where I was. And if I drove 30 minutes from my house, I would still know where I was. And I'd be going, maybe don't get out the car around here. It's a bit dodgy. Right? Yeah. But then it just gets out and starts having it with, how did you describe them, Richie? Irish zombies.
Irish zombies,
yeah. They were in the film.
Not one of them was over 5'5",
no,
was they?
That's why they were called the Ducky Boys, weren't they? Because they were just retired jockeys from Ireland.
Yeah.
Just want to go back to the elbow tit thing a second as well. Because in the book, fine, it was funny, I understood it because as a kid I used to do the same thing, but watching the film, watching a grown man who's clearly in his 30s going down the street playing elbow tit, it just seemed a bit fucking weird.
It seemed a bit Operation U-Tree to me, to be honest with you. When I was in it, I was like, oh my God.
What made me laugh though is that like they're all stood there and they're like, so like women who are walking up the road can probably see that they're stood there, and then can see that they're purposely walking towards them as well, and that's where Joey gets beat up by that one woman, isn't it?
Yeah, it was massive.
Yeah, she could have been a Bond villain.
There was the cock and roll that was done to the 2 young lads in the book, the 2 characters that they didn't bring in, but they brought that in. Yeah,
because what happens in the book is that Dougie, he writes Richie hates. And he gets the hassle at school, and then he figures out who it is, or someone tells him who it was.
He sees it on his hands. He sees the crew set the paint on his hands.
He sees the white paint. So he goes to his brother's gang, who's in like 2 years below him, the Zorros.
Yeah,
and says, right, we need these 2 kids teaching a lesson, and they do the dick on the rope thing to them. I think all the bits were well implemented. The Boldies had a lot more to do in the film than they did in the book.
Definitely, yeah.
And I don't think Turkey joins the Boldies, does he, in the book?
Not in the book, no.
Which was a weird thing. It was like, why would they do, like, because sometimes like we have the conversation, Steve, what does an author or what does a film change the book? And we had Dougie Brimson on, who'd wrote Top Dog, and he also wrote the script as well. So we asked the question of why do you change certain things, and is it time, is it money, is it continuity, and that kind of thing. And it's just why Turkey was a Boldy. I mean, maybe just so they got chased at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? It could have been as simple as that. Right, we want to chase. We want to introduce Perry as this tough lad. How do we do it? Put Turkey in the Boldies, because you didn't have any of that in the book about them going into the Marines either, did we?
No, you had the Boldies going into the Marines because the man's train of 4 in the Marine Centre was, I want these away from my store, my offices, get them in the Marines. He didn't care if they wanted to become Marines or not. He just wanted them away. He just wanted them off the streets. Basically, that's why he got them to sign up.
Oh, must have, because sometimes when you're reading the book and you're watching the film, it kind of all blends into one, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah,
it does. It is for all of our 6 listeners out there, it's a very difficult task that we undertake.
But the one character I found was spot on was Joey's dad, Emilio. I just thought that was was perfectly cast and perfectly written in the film.
Well, I've got to say, first of all, I think most people have had a dad out there who's a bit hard and a bit strict and probably a bit of a pisshead and probably just batter you rather than talk to you. But Emilio kind of really encased that, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think in the book, I think they said he was like a Mr. New York.
Yes.
So like he was always working out. He's flexing his body. He's got 18-inch biceps, and he's
ex-fireman.
Yes, indeed. And he goes down to watch his son play the football match where about 700 Ducky Boys turn up.
Yes, yeah.
So that massive fight scene, the bit that made me laugh was when he's picked up that lad like he's the Big Show.
Yeah.
He's picked up Rey Mysterio and he's just swinging
him round, knocking people out. yeah.
With that bloke. That was brilliant. And then at the very end, because it's exactly the same as the book, like Joey gets up after being beaten up, he's going, yeah, we beat the Ducky Boys, and his dad just turns around and just fucking bombs him.
Levers him in the stomach, yeah.
But then like he doesn't even realise he's done it, and he's just going, yeah, with his fucking half a bench.
But he looks like he's a beast. He's a beast of a man, and you could just look at him and think, wow. But then in the book, he sort of goes into a bar for a drink, and the bar people are like, we can't stand him, but we're not going to tell him, sort of thing. So yeah,
I think, to be honest, what the book did really well was make you aware of, and we had this conversation, me and Rich had this conversation about Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Very similar films.
Well, no, but the point was making is Roald Dahl can make you hate somebody or like somebody with a few choice words.
Yeah.
He was mean. He is smelly. And you fucking don't like that geezer. And it was kind of, that's with Richard Price, even though Emilio hadn't actually done anything particularly, you could tell he was a mean bastard, just like the sat at the table eating, and just a couple of things that he says, you're like, oh, I don't like you. You didn't.
I don't like you, or I wish you get your comeuppance, sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It was, but also I think I took solace that he was only a very minor character, and actually quite liked the fact that like he stood up for his son. And well, did he stand up for his son, or did he just like a big scrap?
I just think he liked a big scrap, to be honest with you. He was like, yes, this is happening, sort of thing. Yeah.
There was fucking hundreds of them little Ducky Boys, and you don't even know why, do you? There was no aggro, and that was the weird thing. Right, was it me, or is Turkey homosexual?
Well, in the book, it makes out that he's homosexual because he offers the man a blowjob, one of the Ducky Boys. And in the book, he goes, come on, we'll go to the park, nobody will know.
Yeah.
And while they're beating him to death, they like keep shouting, blowjob. So
I fucking missed that bit in the book as well.
It's only fresh in my mind because it's been like the last 3 days that I've read the last 100 pages. So
I say, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since I've finished it. Yeah, which was like in the film, it was bizarre. It was like, yeah, do you want to go to the park? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And then he just pulls a knife out and just started slashing him.
But I'm glad now I've watched it after I've read the book again, because you look at even the priest in the church with the Ducky Boys, you see him in there giving them, what do they call it? They give them...
The communion.
Your communion. Now, he's an ex-gang member as well, so you sort of look at him and think, wow, he's got a backstory. I think there's so many backstories that are not brought out in the film, obviously, because you're time restricted.
To be perfectly honest, and there's it's like passing comment, isn't it? Like just like you said about the teacher. The teacher was like part of the Red Wings, and he said like the reason why he never told anyone, he probably would have got more respect, but he didn't tell anyone because they used to chase the blacks.
Yeah,
and he didn't want to think that the kids in the class have got brothers who he used to beat up.
Yeah,
that could have been another 200-300 page book. Easy peasy, I think.
There's so much scope there. I mean, I'm surprised really no one sort of took it up as a series and looked at it and thought, wow, we could make a series out of this. Like they did with like Sons of Anarchy and the Mayans, stuff like that.
Yeah, could have quite. Yeah, you could quite easily do that. And if that does happen, HBO, Stephen Dodd's down for at least 2.5%. Me and Richie are down for 3.5% each.
Yeah.
Right, let's discuss Richie. Let's discuss Richie in the book and his girlfriend C. And Richie's trying to get his end away, but just can't seem to get his end away. And then let's discuss Richie in the film, who your first introduction to Richie is banging his bird.
Yeah.
Immediately banging her. Now, is his girlfriend's dad a gangster?
Yes, I believe so. But in the book, they're like Italian gangsters. But I'm getting an Eastern European feel in the film with the dad and his brothers.
No, I was getting the Italian feel. I was still getting the Italian feel. But are they high up in the mafia? Are they just bowling alley mafia? Like, I couldn't.
In fact, I missed something big in the film, actually. He did say, I'm just stupid, and then he referred to himself as Italian. So, yeah, they are Italian in the film, yeah.
Yeah. Guinea, I think they used it, didn't they? Which I don't understand the terminology.
I just think that in New York at that time, you had little, and you probably still do, you had little sort of crews like that would control a certain area. Like you say, it could be just a bowling alley mafia.
Yeah, and then maybe just kicking up to like the local mafia family, giving them a little tickle of whatever action they got, so they could look after their little bit. Because that was I don't know whether Kingpin may have nicked that idea there from the bowling hustle, because in Kingpin they shove his hand down the thing, don't they? The bowling chute, and they drop the bowling ball on the geezer there. But my favourite line from the film is from Bowling Mafia's dad, and he said, "She's been banging away since junior high and never caught anyone. You should have given her an ankle bracelet and stuck to jerking off."
No, my favourite bit was I was banging them a dozen at a time, but it was never anybody's daughter. And I thought, but what obviously it is today.
Unless he's homosexual, in which case it is never anyone's daughter. But even the missus went, "Banging no one's daughter." But I don't think it was ever a love story, because sometimes these can turn out to be love stories between two lads, between Joey and Richie, as an example. And I never really thought about it until the very end with Joey and Perry. And I was like, it's okay to, not in a gay way, I'm not saying it's not okay to be gay, what I'm saying is, like, not in a gay way, like Joey and Perry became really close.
Yeah.
I think he said, like, at one point, not homo, but like, I love you, or whatever it was. And that's where Joey's dad comes around to try and shag Perry's mom, and gets caught.
I don't think we actually seen the mum in the film, did we? We just heard a voice.
Yeah, just heard a voice.
But in the book, she was portrayed as like an old dumpy woman who was just mourning the death of her husband, and her other son treated her like dirt, basically. Who'd made money for himself.
Well, that's what I thought when Perry goes to go in, and she goes, "Oh, Perry, can you just go to the shop?" Like, I thought, she got a geezer in there or something, you know what I mean? Is she a prostitute, perhaps? I don't know. And does Perry know? Does he not know? Does she do it while he's at school? And so on and so forth. I wasn't clear. It never really like kind of brought it out, other than Joey seeing his dad leaving there.
Yeah,
that one time. But then they have that fight. Well, Perry's talking about leaving, and Joe's like, "Oh, I'll come with you. Let's just go." They have to fight. He hits his dad over the head, and they decide to leave. And all of this is going on. Rich is having his bachelor party, isn't he?
Yeah.
What I liked about that scene was, you had the Dow Bombers, you had the Wongs, and they were like, "Right, we're leaving." And they're like, "No, stay." And he's like, "No, we don't fit in." He's like, "Don't be daft. Well, I want you here." I don't know whether was that the point where, at least for Richie, realised these people are just my friends. I don't have to fight them. I don't have to be against them. You can live your life and be friends with people that aren't the same as you.
I think it was like a coming of age sort of thing. That part was definitely coming of age. I think, like, I'm an adult now.
Well, that last 15 minutes, I think, kind of what he tried to cram. Like, if you watch, for instance, Dazed and Confused, you can watch the beginning of Dazed and Confused and start off as a 15-year-old, and you can end that as a 30-year-old and go, "I've come a long way in this movie." That's coming of age. You've matured throughout that film, where I think what it tried to do was fit all that into the last 15 minutes. Go, right, how do we make them better people quickly?
The bit I loved is when his new father-in-law gave him that big Hawaiian shirt, and he's like, "You'll grow it," because he's looking at the size of it, and he's like, "You'll grow into it," and he's like, "Okay." And I'm like, yeah. I just thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that was quite good as well. Also, for you, Richie, I saw something in that film right at the end that I thought you may have liked.
Did you?
Yeah, the Bob Dylan being in the pub playing.
Oh yeah.
Was it actually? Yeah. Was it meant to be Bob Dylan?
It was actually Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was meant to be him, but it was him.
What was it actually Bob Dylan, or was it?
It was actually Bob Dylan.
No, it was meant to be Bob Dylan. Was it meant to be Bob Dylan? Yeah.
It was actually Bob Dylan.
Oh, was it actually Bob Dylan? Yeah. Well, because obviously I recognised the song. And I go, oh, clearly they're pretending that it's Bob Dylan, but I didn't actually know if it was Bob Dylan or not.
I'm pretty sure. I didn't look it up, but I didn't look it up because I was pretty sure it was Bob Dylan.
The bit I like as well is where they go to the Jersey Turnpike, and I just thought of The Sopranos straight away then, because at the start of The Sopranos, he goes through that in every episode, doesn't he, in the credits, the Tony Soprano.
Oh, that's right, with the toll road.
Yeah.
Obviously the last line, but that was probably one of the funniest was, 2,900 miles? Have we got enough gas?
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool. No sign of Bob Dylan being in the credits.
Oh.
Richard.
Well, they if it wasn't him, they found a very good look-alike.
Well, no, look-alike. He was fucking silhouetted.
It was a silhouette.
Okay, well, it was definitely Bob Dylan singing it.
Yeah, it was probably. Yeah, I'm just having a quick look to see if we've got any credits for the music or the soundtrack.
I'm still unsure of what the is it the Dookie Boys?
Ducky Boys.
They were Irish, weren't they?
The Irish, yeah.
Yeah. What were they? What were they? They just seemed to hang around the streets doing fuck all, and then turn up to football matches to start random fights.
Well, that's what they used to do. They'd sort of all stick together, and then every so often they get bored and just hit a certain. In the book, it says they'd hit a certain neighbourhood, cause absolute carnage, and then go back to their own neighbourhood like nothing happened. They just go and it wasn't even like a money making thing. It was just to go and fight and then come back.
And I think that's why everyone was like, we're getting out of here. Because in the film, when they're trying to get the other gangs to join them to fight the Dow bombers, they're like, nah, we ain't fucking getting involved. And then the other guys has pulled the shooters out, and they're like, we can't trust them. We've got our shooters. He's like, no, we don't do weapons. Like he said no weapons. We're going to fight with no weapons. Although they never actually fought. They just had a football match. And then the Wongs turned up, and the Wongs were like, well, we'll do it when we're ready. But you could imagine that the Ducky Boys shit everyone up because they just turn up 250 with knives and poles and just batter you.
My problem with the film was when the Wongs turned up, they turned them into stereotypes of what was going on around that time. They turned all of them into kung fu masters.
Yes.
I can't imagine that if Richard Price was growing up and he had Chinese people or Japanese people in his school, that they were all martial arts masters. I just thought that was a bit too stereotypical.
No, but I think what they've done is the Wongs have gone, we'll kill you with one judo chop. And everyone's gone, we've fucking seen those movies. So yeah, they're probably, you're right.
But, the Wongs, that's another thing. The Wongs are Chinese. Judo's Japanese. It's a Japanese martial arts.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe that's the irony. Maybe they're just going, we'll kill you one judo chop. And people are like, I don't want to find out. I've seen those films, so they all can.
Maybe.
Just like when they meet them and they all disappear, and then Turkey goes, yeah, fuck you. And he goes, the Wongs are always watching.
Yeah.
Because that adds to the mystique, doesn't it?
and there's a part where Turkey goes a bit bad, and then you'll see not even Ducky Boys. These are like men with like business hats and raincoats on, standing by a car, and he goes up to them and they just ignore him. And then they start chasing him, and I'm thinking, well, this kid's having a bad day here. He's sort of like everybody in the streets chasing him. Yeah,
and also the irony was that all the Ducky Boys are having communion. The priest is ramming that fucking communion prawn wafer into their mouth.
Yeah.
He's just ramming it in the mouth. As they're all there praying to God, getting absolution. Here's someone outside who's in trouble, and go and kill him.
Yeah.
And then what? Just go back to church. Oh, yeah, Soz father for that. But
in the book, they don't discuss in confession what they've done fighting-wise or anything like that. He knows they're doing it, but they don't discuss it in confession. That's what the book said, that they never bring that to confession.
Which is even more bizarre, because you'd think that's where you'd get away with it. That you're absolving yourself. But then again, what do I know about religion? Fucking hell. So, any other differences in the book, Richie, that you noticed in the movie?
I wouldn't know.
No, Steve.
I mean, Eugenie, who said his penis was pointing downwards. Who was he?
No, he wasn't. I took Eugene. Wasn't he the geezer around the shop?
Yeah, the paint shop.
Yeah, because I took him to be like some 40-year-old bloke, because Joey goes to me, because no, Richie. It's Richie. He goes, I want to get my end away with my bird. He's going, yeah, what you want to do is shove a carrot up her.
Yeah.
What you want to do? Your penis. Put your penis in her.
He said he sort of opens her up and she's ready for you then. And I'm like, oh my God.
This is the worst advice you could take from. But I think we've all known like a bloke who's 20 or 25. So you don't do that then? I think we've all known a bloke who's, when we've been like teenagers, you get like the 35, 40-year-old bloke who tells you things and you're like, that doesn't make any fucking sense, mate. And that was, when I'm reading that, I'm like, what is he telling? Well, then all the different weird things he's telling him to do, and it's like, what? No, don't put a carrot there. Use your penis, you fucking weirdo. But he was completely, I think, and gratefully written out of that film because he served no purpose whatsoever.
No, none at all, to be fair.
The big question is, right, as these are teenage kids, and where are they coming up with the designs for their jackets and who's making them? And, like, everyone had a uniform. You're like, how are you?
Yeah, when you walked down that school corridor, it was like everybody had a different uniform on, didn't they? And it was like, yeah.
And it's like, how do you know? Like, in the 60s, where'd you go to get, like, uniforms made for street gangs?
That might have been a thing in America, though. I mean, when you look at Greece, they had the same kind of thing. You had the girls, they had was it the pink ladies or something like that?
Yeah, and the T-birds and stuff like that, yeah.
I think it might have been a thing in certain parts of America back then.
What like in the back of the Gazette? Are you in a street gang? Do you have a uniform? If not, we can make you some bomber jackets.
Just because we in England weren't as cool as them in America doesn't mean it wasn't possible.
Well, I don't know. If you turned up with the same trainers or top on as your mate, you'd go mad. You'd have to go home and get changed. So.
That's true, yeah.
Only one person wearing an AFNAF. So basically you'd have one in an AFNAF t-shirt, one in a spliffy jacket.
That's the equivalent, isn't it? Everybody in my year had fucking spliffy jackets or NAF. It's the same thing.
Or click suits.
Yeah, Cabrini coats when I was growing up in the winter. Yeah.
That being said, it's only the same. I mean, we had, again, just plugging our previous episode, Top Boy with Dougie Brimson, and also Eddie Brimson when we discussed ID. Football hooliganism, it's, even though, like, you're not walking to the ground in, like, your football shirt, you walk into your ground in your Stone Island jacket and your, proper clubber, kind of nice, expensive clothes that you're prepared to get claret all over. And, that's the kind of the hooligan kind of dress code, isn't it?
And then you've got like there is a site I think on Facebook, like a page, Get the Badge In, where you're getting the Stone Island badges in, and it just follows football fans all over the country.
I've seen pictures of that, which is always funny. Okay, so let's move into the soundtrack. Normally this is the part, Steve, where we ask what kind of song or album you might put into the film to make it a little bit better. Usually it's The Prodigy, but I think what I've got to say is, even though we've covered High Fidelity, which I thought High Fidelity had the best soundtrack we've ever done, this was fucking by far the best soundtrack of any film.
I loved it. The only thing that was missing from it, I think, was sort of Phil Spector, like the Ronettes, that sort of sound.
Yes, maybe something of like maybe some Paul Anka hiding in there somewhere. Yeah. But I mean, even they had my Boyfriend's Back in there as well. Dal Shannon,
Acapulco with the saxophone. I thought that was perfect for the sad scenes. That was brilliant.
It was really heavy with Frankie Valli. And even though I'll play a lot of 50s stuff in the car and the missus is like, even she was tapping away to it. So it's just like, it was such a good soundtrack. And I think well played, just like you said, well placed bits in every single section. I thought it was really good. Richie?
Yeah, I don't think I changed the soundtrack. 70s indie rock. It's just perfect for it. It's fine. Didn't need changing.
And the way they brought in Bob Dylan at the end, times are changing, it was like a reflection of their lives. Their lives were changing. I just thought that was very poignant. And I've never noticed that until today.
You've watched it 40 times and it's only just like now clicked in.
When I was a kid, I used to just watch it for the fight on the football field. It was like, yeah.
And the shagging at the start.
yeah. Unless you was watching it with the whole family, then you're like, I don't want to watch this.
I've got a story about that. I remember watching Basic Instinct with my mum and didn't know what it was about. I was like, do you want to watch this? I'm like, yeah, sweet. And I was like, like 2 minutes in, I'm like, got like the pillow on my lap, head down. I'm like, fucking hell. My mum hasn't turned it off. I'm like, shit.
You're like, fuck's sake.
Okay, so we're going to do the remake now, Phil. We're doing a 2023 remake. We're going to base it on a similar story, but today's social climate. So it wouldn't be what happened then; it would be what's happening now.
Yeah. So, well, let's keep it the same storyline, but if we're remaking it with a new cast. Richie, have you got any ideas of? And I know your first choice. He's going to be for, say, Richie or Perry. Go on, let's hear him.
What?
Zac Efron.
No. Tom Hardy.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, yes, that's a great choice. Are these gangs in the 40s?
That's the thing. We need to keep these kids. So it's going to be people we don't even fucking know yet.
No.
Okay, so let's throw one person in who I think could probably get away with being in the gang as a little bit older, and he's got a bit of a look about him. I'd throw Will Poulter into the mix somewhere.
I don't know who that is.
Have you seen Bandersnatch?
No.
Black Mirror on Netflix.
Yes.
So
I have watched Bandersnatch.
Yeah. So the mixed race lad with the blonde hair, who's the computer programmer.
I've no idea.
Fuck's sake. He was in Son of Rainbow as well, and he was in that. He's been in a lot. So, all right, okay, Will Poulter. I'm going to throw in Will Poulter anyway. He's in there. Anyone else that you can think of who's fairly youngish?
No.
Well, I don't know if The Rock could be one of the Baldies. This is sort of like, I know it's going a bit too far.
He could be Terror. Because
he was Stone Cold in there as well.
Yeah, Stone Cold, yeah. Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel's got that accent, the New York accent, hasn't he?
Who could, right, so who's going to play Emilio then? Who's going to be Emilio?
No. If you could get an American accent, I'd go for Craig Fairbrass, the Rise of the Foot Soldier.
That'd be so funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No, because don't forget, as a remake, we pretty much remake any part. He could be, a British guy who moved to America, 10 years ago or whatever. We can remake this film however we like.
We can crowbar Stephen Graham in there somewhere because he can do the New York accent. He was Al Capone, wasn't he? Yeah.
He could be the teacher.
Yeah. He'd make a fantastic teacher.
So basically, this film has now turned from American, Italian, Jewish, and black gangs to British casting of Stephen Graham and Craig Fairbrass. Right?
Yeah. Based in London, but teachers from the north and the south.
Tam Hassan in there as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Tam and San, leave the kid alone. He could be that. He could be Perry, leave the kid alone.
Yeah, he could be.
And what's his name as the one who used to do the he's an older gang and he used to do Britain's Hardest Gangs and that. What's his name now? Danny Dyer as Joey.
Hang on, aren't we just naming the cast of The Business?
Yeah.
Jeff Bell in there as well.
Just give them all feeler tracksuit tops instead of Wanderers jackets. Let's just go the whole hog.
Umbro spray away.
Yeah. And instead of street gangs, they're football gangs. Yeah, let's just go for it. Yeah.
So, Football Factory.
So we're just turning it into an English gangster film based around football.
We just turned it into Football Factory. That's what we're the Football Factory.
Yeah. And instead of American football, it's real football where it kicks off. West Ham Millwall. Yeah.
Mean Machine, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Vinnie Jones. Yeah. The Vinnie Jones remake. Actually, have Vinnie Jones as Terror. There we go. Perfect.
Yes, he needs a part in there, Vinnie Jones, yeah. And Jason Statham somewhere.
We get Guy Ritchie to direct it.
Yeah. Jason Statham just does all the martial arts, isn't he?
What, Jason Statham's one of the Wongs?
No, he is the Wongs. And what it is...
Yeah.
He's walking Perry down the corridor going, they're the Dow Bombers, they're the Irish, I don't fuck with them. He goes, Wongs, it's a fucking bold 40-year-old British bloke. Yeah, but he knows Kung Fu, he could kill you in one judo chop.
I'm changing the teacher to Chuck Norris, who's doing the blackboard. Who's going to mess with Chuck Norris? Chuck Norris has got to be the teacher.
Okay, and then I'll add a new character in there then, the caretaker, who ends up in a scrap and it's fucking Michael Jar White.
The leader of the Irish, that can be the Undertaker.
Or have Brad Pitt when he done Brad Pitt out of Snatch.
Oh yeah,
Brad Pitt out of Snatch would be the leader of the Ducky Boys, yeah.
Or no, actually no, because we could go real Irish and have Cillian Murphy in there, couldn't we?
To be fair, we're just being fucking ridiculous now, aren't we?
Yeah. But what a film! What a premiere! Yeah.
You just basically said The Expendables, Football Factory, The Firm. You mixed all those three films together.
Mix The Octagon and Missing in Action. Yeah.
It is our worst remake so far. We even managed to remake Breakfast at Tiffany's better than this.
I want the bloke out, The Exterminator, Robert, whatever his name is. Yeah.
You know what? I haven't seen The the Exterminator yet?
Oh God, you've got to watch it. It's fantastic.
Isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger an ex-Terminator?
He's an Exterminator indeed.
He's an Exterminator. Yeah.
I remember a post you put on Facebook fucking about 7 or 8 years ago about the Toolbox Killer film, and I was like, fucking hell, what's it about Toolbox Killer? And I looked it up, I was like, fuck me, I'm going to have to fucking watch that. And I watched some really bizarre, like, late 70s, early 80s horror films, and I was like, I've still not got round to that Toolbox Massacre or whatever it was.
It's mad because, I don't know, I'm like 50 now, and I was in that video revolution, and I was like 9 years old when we first got a video recorder, and I seen everything, like Driller Killer, Exorcist. I seen absolutely every film. It was just a brilliant time to be a kid. Yeah. It really was. Down in Quinton Films. Yeah. No, well, we used to have to go all the way to Sturchley from Quinton. There was a video shop called Witchcraft, because we, like idiots, brought a Betamax video instead of VHS. So we had to source out a video shop that stocked Betamax. That was the only one.
Okie dokie. So I think, is that us done, Richie? Have we got any additional sections?
No.
I've enjoyed reading the book and watching the film. It's got me into gear now, watching it, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, I've got to read that book by such and such, and I have a deadline and I've got to read it, and I really enjoyed it, so thank you for asking me. Really appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Stephen. It's really nice to catch up with you after so long.
Yeah.
We do have a quite diverse audience, and when I say diverse, what I mean is we have a lot of people from America who listen.
Some Wongs, we've got some Irish.
we have people from France, Belgium, Singapore, Israel. We have Russian people listen as well, Belgium, French, Germany, Spain, all over the place. Can you let our listeners know where they can maybe catch your stand-up? Perhaps have you got a YouTube channel or a review?
I haven't got a YouTube channel. Well, you can go Stephen Dodd Comedian on YouTube. I've got clips on there. And I'm just Stephen Dodd on Facebook as well. So I haven't really looked into the social media side of thing yet. I'm a bit lazy there.
You should, to be honest. Because to be perfectly honest, I would have thought, or at least I would say, that you are the next Peter Kay. And
I don't know about that.
No.
Thank you though for saying it.
No, but Steve, it's not even because you're a friend, right? It's because like your jokes are not similar to what Peter Kay does, but it's a similar kind of stand-up. You just make jokes about things. You go, fuck, I didn't think about that. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So you should really start looking at putting a show reel together, start filming yourself, put a show reel together, get yourself out there, because I think that you could be the next big thing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I've really enjoyed this. I really have. If you can send me the links for some other episode, I'd like to listen to them.
Yeah, well,
I didn't purposely listen to them before because I wanted to do this as like fresh, as just sort of like, I didn't know the format. I just wanted to come in and just go, right, to me, it's really interesting. And I do love my films and TV. I really do.
I'll send you the Spotify list, and all the bits are on there. We've got some great guests. We've had people like Scott Caporo, who's in Mrs. Doubtfire. He's been on. We've had Simon Bamford, who was in Hellraiser. He's been on. We've had Gareth Bellina. We've had John Pearson, Ben Davis, Dougie, and Eddie Brimson. We've had quite a few good guests, haven't we, Richard?
Yeah, we're hoping to have a really good year next year, because we're going to plan ahead. So we're going to work out our books and everything for next year, so we might have you back on if you fancy it.
I'd love to. I love stuff like this, I really do.
We'll send you a shitload of books that we'll possibly be doing ahead of time, so you can work out which ones are...
Brilliant, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, the new Jack Reacher book's out as well now, and season 2 of Jack Reacher's coming out on Amazon soon, so maybe we should...
It's such a big project though, Phil. I mean, a whole season. I can sit down and watch a film, but a whole 2 seasons of something for one episode of a podcast just seems a lot of work.
Each season is based on a book, so you've only got to watch 6 hours. And
that's okay then. If it's only 6 hours, that's okay.
Yeah, but the Jack Reacher movie that we did was about 2.5 hours, wasn't it? It was a fucking monster. Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, anyway, we'll sit down and talk about that. But yes, that is us done. That is the book and the film, The Wanderers. I do recommend you go check it out. It's very culturally relevant for the time. It gives you an insight into what it was like then. You have to look at it with those lenses, though. Don't look at it with the lens of this is awful and horrible and it shouldn't be made today. But yeah, do that. You can also check us out and find us in the links that we'll leave in the show notes. We're on Twitter and Instagram and all those places. If you're listening to this, you like us and you enjoyed this and you enjoy what we do, please give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, and all that good shit. It'd be much appreciated. So yes, that's us. Thank you again, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
As always, Richard.
So this has been the Adapted to Screen podcast. The Wanderers, the book versus the film. Thanks for listening, if indeed you still are.
Back in '63, there was one kind of music.
Yeah, all right. Some rock and roll.
One kind of love.
No, not yet. You know, in a couple minutes we're gonna be naked, then what?
We gotta get it up!
And all kinds of gangs.
If you ever need us, just whistle loud. We'll be there.
I'm in love! Look at that!
Teenage trouble. The terrors of their turf. There were the Fordham Baldies.
I got a urge tonight.
All right, let's stomp some ass!
The Dell Bombers. The Wongs.
What do we do? Joey, what do we do?
Nothing, they just started chasing me.
And then there were the Wanderers.
Leave the kid alone.
Gotcha.
A legend in their time. The Wanderers. It was their world.
You guys don't know where you're living. You're talking last year. We ain't going with you without these. Then you ain't going with us.
Their rules.
Nice knowing you guys. Wonders forever, right, Joey?
Let's go!
It was their time. But time was running out.
Hey, buddy! Somebody's in trouble!
The Wanderers. Too crazy to run. Too proud to hide.
I don't want to see you run. Are you gonna stay?
Too good to lose.
Wonders forever.
The Wanderers are coming,
Not yet.
and you'll never forget them.